What if curiosity is the missing ingredient in fixing our biggest divisions? In this episode, I sit down with David Deighton, an artist whose work revolves around getting complete strangers to have thoughtful conversations about politics. Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life, with me, your host, Giuliano and David, thanks so much for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm glad that we finally connected. We've been trying to make it work for a while. But I've really been looking forward to our conversation. I feel like a lot of the things that you mentioned that you wanted to talk about are things that I really care about a lot. And so I'm excited to kind of dive in. But for myself and for people listening, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there?
Well, my name is David Deighton. Deighton is actually not my last name. It is my wife's last name. I took her name.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And plus, she didn't want to use my last name.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking someone was saying how like, oh, you don't want, what did I read it? It might've been on Threads or something where someone was saying that, oh, you don't want to take your husband's last name. You're like, but it's still your father's last name. Because it was like a feminist thing. And I was like, it's still some man's last name. I was like, that's kind of a good point.
Dude, I did even worse. Like I changed my last name from my grandfather's to my grandfather's last name on my mother's side.
Oh, okay.
And then I told my grandma, I was like, you know what I did? I changed to honor you. I took your last name. And she's like, well, you know, it was my husband's last name. It wasn't my last name. And I actually changed it. I was like, oh, crap, I did it.
Yeah, it was funny. And then still, if you had done that, it would still be her father's last name.
Right, exactly.
Like there's no escaping it. You know what I mean? Like at some point it was a man's last name and you're like, oh, that's kind of crazy. I never thought about that.
Well, all this honoring, anyway. This one, I just took my wife's last name. So
nice.
There we go. And at least it's my daughter's last name, and we all have the same last name.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it's also it just sounds good too, David Deighton. Like I like it.
yeah, that word's good. Yeah, that's right. And my dad's passed away, so he's not going to get upset that I'm not using his last name anymore. So
love it.
So that's everything you need to know about me.
That's all.
That should tell you a lot. And not only that, I got to tell you. When I did it, I'm from France and I live in the U.S. So I went over to the local police department in the south of France to get my ID renewed. And because it had happened the year when the French government decided that, you know, women could choose to use their maiden name or their husband's name. But, you know, in all fairness, men could do the same. So I went down to the police department and I said, I'm going to use my wife's last name. And all these guys looked at me like, huh? Why? What are you doing? Are you crazy? You don't use your wife's last name. Yeah, the law says so. And I came over with the law and I showed them and they were just blown away.
Wow.
But I'm an artist, so I thought of it like an art performance when I did it, and I had a good laugh. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it is just kind of like a made up thing anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like to me, it's more of
control, man.
Yeah. I mean, someone is giving up their last name and to when you get married, so that you're becoming together and like being one family. It's like, okay, well then. It's just kind of it does make more sense that you would just kind of choose like, oh, whose last name sounds better or like is easier to spell or like which do we want to do, you know? Like it
or make something up
one way or the other.
Which one we all like people get together and just have like this experience and like start something entirely new with a brand new name.
Yeah,
and that's the communal name together. Idea. Right? And that'll be even another ceremony and somebody can cash in on it. I'm sure from the algorithm I give you a name.
That's how we make it. That's how you actually make it normalized, is because some people will be able to profit off of it. So be like, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should start doing that.
That's right. And if anybody uses this idea, it was heard right here, and you have to share everything with Giuliano and me.
That's so funny. So tell me a little bit about the what you do. Let's go into
what I do. Well, I do a lot of different things, but the one like major flow is my artwork. Okay. And it's not the commercial aspect. There's a commercial aspect. I make money with that, but the one that I'm most interested in is this performance abstract pieces that I make, where I invite strangers to talk to one another on the taboo subject of politics.
Mm.
And it's like not something we're not supposed to do. So I explore like what that looks like, and it's brought me to lots of different places, including national parks where I set up art installations, and I invite people to talk about politics, and I ask them three non-confrontational political questions, and often they go, "What do you mean non-confrontational political questions? There's no such thing." And I show them that it's possible only because I ask the questions, and then all I do is I actually listen.
Mm.
I try not to get triggered by what people say, and I hear a lot of crazy stuff. I try
Yeah.
not to get triggered, and I find one thing I have in common with them. Usually, it's not. It's just an emotion. They're pissed off about
Mm.
the state of affairs, and I'm pissed off about it too. So I'll tell them that, and that's the
Mm.
bridge. I create bridges. I like creating bridges. I like explore echo chambers, like how our worldview, what that looks like. If I were to put it in a physical form, what that would look like. Have people think about their own echo chambers, how two echo chambers meet, what that
Mm.
intersection looks like, and the representation of it. Because my preoccupation overall is an increasingly divided society where people are no longer talking to one another on important subjects such as politics and just giving up on the whole thing, while other people are benefiting from that silence.
Mm.
uh, as individuals, I want people to take that back and have conversations that are outside of the grid, offline, in person, not through the algorithm when it gets
Mm.
all canceled. I've had that a lot too.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really interesting. I definitely want to dive into this, but
yeah.
one of the things
Mm,
I'm curious about is, well, first of all, I guess I've never really viewed myself as an artist, but I feel like the more artists I talk to, the more I feel like, oh, that's how I feel. Where I kind of just am like exploring things and like trying different stuff and like um I guess my question is like it feels like art can just kind of like be anything almost. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I put a little bit more of a definition on it,
Yeah,
right?
please. I'd love to hear it.
I think what we're doing right now is an art performance, right?
Mm, okay.
Because of one major thing, there's intent, there's intention in what we're doing,
Okay.
right? There's a flow in the conversation, and it's just not going to be just chit chat about the weather or whatever.
Yeah.
There's going to be depth in it, right? And so they're set forth with an intention of curiosity and discovering,
Okay.
right? And through that, something happens. And I not only do I think of what we're doing here as a performance piece, but I also think that all things have a political repercussion as well. So it's also
Mm.
a political act.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
have a very broad definition of all these things.
Okay.
Um, but it also, by allowing that space to be made, it allows us to just go off in any direction,
Yeah.
right? There's the boundaries are, it's like looking at echo chambers, for example. They can have a much wider area if you expand the definition to include a lot of our daily activities.
Mm.
And you can explore new ways of doing it, right? Because the boundaries are less set. So, you could take poetry and ceramics and video and even posting something online. If they're done with an intention, that is part of yourself deep down inside,
Mm.
rather than just a superfluous act, then that to me is an artistic motion. I'm not the only one to think this. I like
Sure.
some of the readings. There was a German uh, thinker, artist. His name was Joseph Beuys, and he did this art performance, which is pretty cool. He came to America in the '60s, and he said, "I'm not going to put my feet on the U.S. soil." Right? I think it was Vietnam War or something like this.
Okay.
So the ambulance went over to the airport, picked him up, they put him on a stretcher, they took him over to put him in the ambulance, ran the sirens all the way to some loft over in New York, took him upstairs, and then put him in a room. And in that room was Joseph Beuys and a wild coyote that they'd found somewhere. And he
Okay.
spent 24 hours with this coyote, and
What?
he protected himself with like this blanket made of felt, which he'd been shot down over Ukraine during the Second World War, and some Tartar rescued him and put him in a blanket made of felt. So he used that's
Mm.
all often part of his artwork. And then this coyote pissed on him, bit him, but he was biting, and he had all this interaction. And for him, it was this performance of interaction between him and the representation of America, which was this wild, uncontrolled coyote. And then
Interesting.
at the end of that, got back on the stretcher. They brought him back to the airport, and he left and went back to Germany.
Wow.
I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's got a lot of significance in there, a lot of intent.
Yeah.
And so I see that it was a political act, it was an artistic performance, and yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
he didn't know where
interesting.
it was going to go. Like the art, the coyote was part of the art. There was nothing else, no painting, nothing that was made out of it except a few pictures that were taken, and a little book that was made afterwards.
So, do you think then that art is like like experience and exploration, like just with intention?
Yes,
Because that's what it feels like, like if you had to take like a really broad definition, but that still encompasses like the meaning. It's like you're exploring something, and you're expressing something within yourself, but you're doing it like you said with a certain intention.
that's right. Yeah, you
Interesting.
set forth maybe a question, and you take that question. Okay, so another one. I go to a national park. I set up I set up an art installation. It's a sculpture. It's inside of a museum stand. I put it in the middle there, and uh, and it creates a disruption. People come over and they're like, What's this doing?" It's abstract. It has nothing to do with the national park,
Mm,
right? And they look at it like, "What's this doing here?" So there's this disruption. My intent is a question, and the question is asking people three non-confrontational political questions, and to see wherever that takes me,
yeah.
and to experience that. And so people answer the questions, and then I try to offer myself as a canvas of sort, because
Mm,
I'm just going to listen, and they're performing now, and they're answering, and we get into a space which is very, very loose boundaries to them.
yeah.
We're disrupted because we're in a park doing something we're not in front of a sculpture, and also we're talking about a taboo subject that you're not supposed to talk about, especially with a stranger, right? So all
Yeah.
these things are happening. So that's the intent, and that's and then all these other things happen. So there's forms of emotion that come out. Some people rarely get angry because all I'm doing is listening,
Mm,
but occasionally somebody will cry because nobody's ever asked them those questions, and there was a form of like trauma that happened because all
mm,
they've been doing is hearing all these things online over and over and over,
mm.
and they don't have a chance to express what they feel, right? Or they have an overbearing family member that's constantly telling what they saw on Fox News or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then finally somebody's listening to them, and so person cries, and then the husband comes back from the visitor center going, "What'd you say to my wife?" And all these things are happening, right? And would this just happen if you didn't have any intent to put all these elements
Mm,
forth, right?
yeah, I see.
If Yeah, um, yeah. It's for example, the crowd's walking quickly down the streets of Manhattan, and somebody's walking very slowly in the intent of slowing down the pace in a
Mm,
meditational aspect, right? That could
yeah.
also be a performance piece. But they don't only stop there; they walk for days on end. And then other artists that have walked all the streets of New York over several years,
Mm,
was arrested several times for vagabondsy and being, and the thing is, with this artist that walked all the streets, never to spend a night underneath a roof anywhere.
mm.
Yeah, for that whole time.
Interesting.
And it was so it has the element of pain, of sacrifice, of
Mm,
exploration, of communication, all these things,
okay.
and putting yourself forth as a human canvas, right?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know,
and you're putting yourself forth.
yeah, it's like it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like what you're describing has really shifted my perspective on even just this podcast, because I feel like I approach it very differently than like other podcasts that I've heard. And for me, um, for anybody who maybe this is the first episode they're listening to, I started this podcast as almost a recreation of the experiences I was having as an Uber driver. Because I drove for Uber and Lyft for like over a decade, and I had basically like a revolving door of people in and out of my car, and I would just talk to people, and we would have like the most amazing conversations, just totally unexpected. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I feel like other people need to, hear this. Like, they need to hear these conversations. They're great. And um, so when I started the podcast, that was kind of what my intention was like, I want to have people on the show. There's some people I have on that like I know a decent amount, right? Because maybe I connected them on social media or something like that. But for the most part, I like to have people on that I really don't know a lot of it about. Like I literally I'm almost recreating that same experience where someone gets in your car and you just know their name. And so someone
Mm.
come on the show and I'm like, let's just get to know each other and see where it goes. And I was just telling my wife, like literally yesterday, how I'm like, it kind of shocks me because people come on the show and I mean, I'm just being 100% transparent. I have zero plan. Like, I do not plan any part of this. Like, other people, when they, like, other podcasters will be like, oh man, it's so much preparation and so much work. I'm like, what? Like, I literally do nothing. And people get on the show and it turns into these like amazing conversations that where there's this almost like arch of like story, and like the conversation goes in all these unexpected places, and then somehow every time it like, or at least almost every time, right, it feels like
Mhm.
we get back to the thing we were talking about at the beginning and like wrap it up with a bow. And I'm like, I don't know, it's a cool experience, but it's just, now I'm sitting here thinking as you're describing this, I'm like, wow, that I would say that what I'm doing here does fall into that category. If you're enjoying the show and want to support, go to howtobeaperson.co and click support the show. The more support the show gets, the more episodes can be produced.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely put that in that category. If you were the Uber driver in you, right? If you had said it from the beginning, if you want that whole experience, and well, it doesn't matter because right now that's what you're doing now, and you're getting finished conversations that are not that are longer than maybe an Uber ride,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
As well, so that you can spread that out, and you're the canvas as well, right? You're both of you in that conversation are creating something new, exploring new things,
Mm.
and I think a great element in it is the fact that you don't know each other in that drive, right? When
Yeah.
you don't have really any skin in the game, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can say things that you might not want to say to a family member or something like that because you're going to trigger them or say something that
Yeah.
might upset them. You might get that out of the way. There's an ease in talking to strangers that I've discovered because I wasn't doing that before. Before I was like an anonymous artist.
Mm.
I didn't want, and I was an angry, distant political artist that wanted to do nothing except put my ideas out there in your face.
Interesting.
And when I had to put myself out there and shut up, it was a whole other story. Like, I'm getting triggered by what this person's saying.
Mm.
Oh, what's listening? What listening? Deep listening? What's this? Right? And I'm not supposed to say anything right now. Just let them finish and not, have a debate or an argument over this and win them over. I don't need to win them over. I'm just going to let this happen and see where it takes me.
Yeah.
That right there in that space, that is very fruitful. There's a lot more that comes out than all the rigidity that could happen if I, with all the constraints I used to put to myself, unconsciously, right?
Yeah.
And putting myself out there in the public, giving people my name, being there, my face to face,
Yeah. I'm
That is
interested
very
to
different.
I'm interested to hear like some of your learnings, and I appreciate you sharing what you've shared so far
Mm,
because that is already really eye-opening, and I feel like it kind of validates my experience as well.
mm,
But there's a couple of things. So first of all, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I don't identify that way anymore. I don't. Anyway, we could go into how I think now, but the point is I don't anymore. But what's funny is, that's the whole thing is like the two things you don't talk about, religion and politics. And for me, I was a Jehovah's Witness, and like that's all you do is go knock on people's doors and talk about religion.
right. They're
So
often next to me in the national parks, in the
yes,
other free speech area. They can bring me a
exactly,
sandwich because they're like,
exactly.
"Oh, this poor guy, I got to bring him a sandwich." Love him.
So it's funny because I think the being raised that way, there was a certain
Mm,
conditioning like that I would talk about that with people. But I also think just as a person, I never understood like, wait, what do you mean? Why are there things that we shouldn't talk about with people? Like that never made sense to me that something would be off limits. But also as Jehovah's Witnesses, like you don't get involved in politics. So I never really talked about it
mm,
anyway. But my point is that over the years, I would have people in my car driving while I was driving Uber, and that whole concept of like not talking about certain subjects was never on my radar. Like I've always just asked what I was thinking. And
mm.
so for me, when people would get in my car and we would have these conversations, it would go to places that I think they also were not expecting it to go, because I'm just curious. Like I've always been curious, and like I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, well, I shouldn't say that, or I shouldn't ask them that. Like if I have a question in my head, I just ask it. And one of the big takeaways for me, and part of the reason why I also was really interested in talking to you, was
Mm,
how after I've spoken to so many people over so many years, I realized how similar we all are, and that it's really, really easy to like make someone your enemy when in reality, like they're just you. Like they're just like a different
mm,
version of you. Like every other person
mm,
is just like a fractal version of you, like there's a couple things that are different, but it's you. And that to me was like super eye opening. Like I think especially being raised very religious, like and I'm saying religious not just as a Jehovah's Witness, because I know that this is how other religions are as well, is that like, you're the ones who, God is blessing, or that God is chosen in some way, and these other people are bad or evil, and
mm,
they're going to die and they're going to get punished and you're going to get rewarded, right? And so there's like this separation between you and everyone around you. And I'm noticing the same thing in politics as well. And since I don't view myself as a Jehovah's Witness anymore, I have dove more like into politics and just trying to understand all of it and developing my own ideas. But then I also see how dividing it has been. And I go, man, that's so funny, because that's the same experience I had in religion. And it's like people aren't seeing that this was exactly what's happening here in politics as well. Is like you're being divided when in reality, like this other person is just a person just like you. And again, that was part of also my motivation for doing the podcast, was realizing that like not everyone, right? That's an exaggeration, but we have this tendency to like view as like people in our circle and people outside our circle, right? There's people who are like us and people who are not like us. And my experience was not that. My experience was that we're all, for lack of a better phrase, it's like we're all in this together kind of thing. Like there's no
yeah,
such thing
yeah.
as like somebody different from you. Um, and I wanted people to hear the conversations I was having, not just because they were so good, but because of the lessons I pulled from having had the experience of talking to all of those different people, right? So it's not just the individual conversations, even though those conversations were good. It was also like I wanted people to hear the conversations over time from all of these different people and all these different perspectives, so that they could gather the same lessons, maybe without having done, the same thing that I did over those 10 years.
You want to take them inside of the cab ride with you.
Basically, yeah.
Right? Listen and see what that sounds like, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
that they all have their own cab rides.
Exactly.
What drives that though?
What do you mean?
I'm gonna argue. Well, it's not argue, but
Sure, yeah. No, I get it.
I think it's because you said it before. It's curiosity.
Yeah, for me,
It's the
I've always
youthful
been a very
aspect of it.
curious person, like
Mm,
always, like since I was a kid.
mm,
And to me, that is what drives the conversations I have. when I'm talking, I'm always thinking, oh, but what about this? Oh, what about that? Right. When the other person says something, I go, oh, well, now I'm wondering about this. And, and so I just am like, it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
somebody says something and I have questions. I'm like, well, here, like, let me ask these questions.
And so how does that make you feel though?
What do you
Like,
mean?
well, the outcome, like, okay, so you're curious, you're getting all this stuff back,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh yeah, this is going on and that's going on, and they're saying this. Oh yeah, I feel that way too, and sharing things. And ultimately, how does that make you feel? Does it fill a space?
Yeah, I think there's a certain fulfillment in it. Like one of the things that I've over the last several years that I've like identified with is that like I feel like my part of my purpose on earth is to learn. Like I love learning. And so I feel
Mm,
like for me, when I'm
mm.
having these conversations and exploring my curiosity, I'm learning. And so therefore I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. So I feel fulfilled, I would say.
Yeah, fulfilled. Yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely, I feel the same way.
Mm.
That's what it brings. I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago. Like,
Mm.
nah, nah, I'm not gonna get any fulfillment until I get a resolution and resolve to get it the way I think it should be.
Mm.
Yeah, see, when you leave the dogma, right? This is like, oh, all this got to
Mm.
be this way, and when it's that way, everything will be good. Where it can be good right now,
Ah.
right? It could be good right now with an exchange, with conversation. You let some things aside. You just focus in. You're there. You try to be present. You're with the other person. You offer that bit of humanity. Like this is the way we're wired, right?
Mm.
But there's all these other things that's saying, don't do that. Don't connect that way. I need your attention for some other stuff. I need your attention so you can scroll through this. Or
Yeah.
look, this will make you a little bit, because this got a little bit of anger in it. We got a little bit more fear, right? And
Yeah.
guess what? There's a product that you might like.
Mm.
And all these things, and you spend all that time, they got your attention.
Yeah.
Is that the comfort of talking about religion or the discomfort of talking about these things or talking about politics, I think is the exact disruption that we need in order to move away from all the distraction,
Mm.
right? To get deep. And what's the point? I mean, we spend so much time like all diffuse and all this stuff of whatever the algorithm is feeding us,
Yeah.
that if we don't have some really meaningful, in-depth time conversations on subjects that matter, that change us, that relate, that connect, then there's no fulfillment.
Mm.
There's only Amazon fulfillment. You know what I mean? Yeah, it
Yeah.
comes in a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't really do it either. You just want just more. That's, I guess, how consumer capitalism works here.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
more stuff, right? So
Yeah.
that, I don't know how much stuff one needs before they're fulfilled, but you can be fulfilled just in a conversation, right? And it travels in time, that's what's cool about it. And it expands, and it's beyond just you, and it's beyond just the product, right? It's the connection that you had with all those people.
Mm.
They're also going to maybe replicate something similar, or take the story of what you guys had with that experience. Like, hey, I was talking to this guy in a cabin. He said this and that, and all that travels not only in time but in thought, and deepens, and
Yeah.
it has a snowball effect, that's fulfilling in that aspect. Especially if it ever comes back. Do you ever?
Mm.
I guess maybe in the podcast does it come back to you ever? Some of these conversations, like,
Um, it actually hasn't. That's what I think has been kind of interesting about it. Like I
it's
how you were saying
attachment,
like when
man.
you went into those
Yeah.
when you originally went into those conversations, how you were like, oh, I have to be quiet and I have to, right? Like there
Mm.
were maybe certain things that you weren't expecting. I think that is something that I've had to learn as well, because I had really, really good conversations with people. And I also I had like a little business card printed out with just my personal information, no like business or
You
anything.
stay in touch.
And I would, yeah. And what I could tell you, zero. Like I've had
Yeah,
zero
right.
people connect with me again. And
Yeah,
it's
wow,
so
isn't it?
interesting because I
Mm.
mean, I'm not like, right. Someone could be like, oh, this dude's just crazy and he thinks everyone wants to talk to him. But like, I'm telling you, people would unprompted, they would be getting out of the car and like they'd turn around and they'd be like, seriously, that was like one of the, like, I can't believe we had that. That was one of the best conversations I've ever had. Like, thank you, you know? And people like consistently leave me like huge tips. And so like, I know that that's what's happening, but it is interesting how like it actually hasn't come back. That was one of the lessons I had to learn, was just like having the experience itself is like good enough, and like not expecting it somehow to like come back, or like to know what the effect of it was or like how it affected that person or anything, you know?
Oh, that's deep. That, because like first thing when you were telling me that, I was thinking like detachment, like to
Yeah.
be able to detach yourself from the
Yeah.
outcome,
Yeah.
right? I put myself into this, but you got stuff back because of your curiosity and stuff,
Yeah.
and just to be able to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
I've had more difficulty in the sense that, you know, okay, I put some time into this, I want something back out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's something I've been dealing with it. Like, oh, are people going to act accordingly to the thousands of books I put out there on benches with political questions in it, the
Mm-hmm.
ceramic pieces, the all this stuff? And when I finally just let that go, right? And I do get, and I gotta say, I did get a little feedbacks, because you're like in a space vessel, right? You know, when you're driving around, you're not gonna see them again, right?
Yeah,
You give them a
exactly.
card, people are gonna think about it, but they're like, oh, what am I gonna say? It's not gonna be
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
same or whatever.
exactly.
I get people like in a national park, they'll go on a hike and then they'll come back and then share their thoughts again,
Mm.
and that kind of stops there. Or I'll meet somebody in a public area and they'll go, oh, you're the guy that does this or that, right? Because it's this disruptive moment that they experienced at another time, or they heard somebody in a story and then they come back to me and they meet me just by happenstance. I had a great experience with my daughter. We went volunteering up in Utah on some environmental project. We're all around the campfire and stuff, and I have these books that I repurpose, books that I find in recycling bins at the
Okay.
libraries, and
Okay.
I rip them up, and inside of them I stamp the 3 questions, and I have this message in it, like communicate with strangers, talk about politics. It's a political thing you can do, all this stuff, and I just drop these books off in
Mm-hmm.
different parts,
Yeah.
you know, or I'll hand them out like my business card if you want. And somebody at that campfire is like, holy crap, I know this book. You're the guy that does this. I seen it over on a coffee table over in
Mm.
town. And I'm like, wow, that was super validating, because my daughter was there on top of it. So I feel like, oh, dad's doing something that
Look,
actually
I'm cool.
matters.
People know me.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yeah, to be selfless in the act, right? Beyond curiosity, not just for the fulfillment, but to do something as an act for community. I find that is one of my drives as well,
Mm.
uh, because I'm alarmed of uh, of political polarization, not just in the United States, but I'm from France. We're
Oh, okay.
very close to electing a far right neo-Nazi party.
Mm.
We're just a few votes away for them becoming president. Uh, that's all happening. Uh, if people are not talking to each other on very sensitive issues, and the dialogue is not open, especially between people that disagree with one another,
Yeah.
then we're in a very delicate space. That's what I explore, and that my drive is that there's some form of outcome out of it, beyond the fulfillment, as a sense of mission, if you want,
Mm.
that drives me. But I have to do it without any acknowledgement, from my heart, right? And art really helps me in that direction, because there's always new stuff. I'm discovering constantly new ideas, new ways of expression. People are giving me stuff back in their responses that I can use in my artwork as well.
Mm. If you're enjoying the show, I think you'll love my book by the same name, How to Be a Person, 100 Gems on Living a Good Life, available now on Amazon.
Like, I'll ask them 3 questions, right? And at the end, I ask them, they're always the same 3 questions. I'll give them to you right now so everybody can hear them.
Yeah,
You don't have to
curious what
answer
they
them.
are.
But they're like, how would you describe the political system of the United States of America?
Okay.
And then somebody, they answer, blah, blah, blah. They say what they have to say. And then ask them, describe your feelings or reactions to the current state of US politics, right? And then they answer that, and I listen in, and then I kind of do a little game where the person finishes the sentence, politics in the United States, blank, and they answer that. I often record their answers.
Mm.
And at the end, I ask them, give me one word that summarizes everything that you said. And that's super hard. But that one word, that's the word for me. That word is a dynamic word. It seems static at the beginning. They're like, I answered all these questions, and the word is division or anarchy or whatever it is. Okay. And then they take off, go on a hike, and they come back, and they're like, hey, David, okay, the word's not division or anarchy. The word I wanted to really, really say is hopeful. I was like, damn, you just spent 6 hours thinking about that, talking about that, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's this process, and that word I use in a piece of artwork afterwards. And I have all these words, or I'll use them. For example, I have hundreds of words, right, that I've been collecting, one after another. And I want to know, like, if you're actively listening, you're in the sense of actively listening, you're supposed to use all your senses, right? So I was like, okay, I can see the person, I can hear them, but like, okay, taste, what is that? How does that work?
Yeah.
So I brought the words back to the public, and one after another, I've asked them, okay, I've got all these words that people gave me after answering 3 non-confrontational political questions. That's already the disruption necessary to get into a space, right? And I say, and I have one problem in this: I have to actively listen, and I'm stuck on taste. So I've got this list of questions, a list of words. Can I ask you what one of these words tastes like? And I've asked people, is division, the word is division, or anarchy. What does division taste like? Oh man, that experiment has been so profound. Just the first thing, the people are just, that's a huge disruption, because what does a word taste like? In itself, you take it in so many different ways. People look off to the side. They're immediately in a different dimension, right? Thinking about things very differently. And they come up with some stuff they're pulling out of their subconsciousness.
Wow.
We're deep in a conversation straight away from that. And it takes us into all different directions. And it's not political, but remember, to me, everything is a political act.
Sure.
And and everything is art with intention. So that what's going on there, their product, what they're pulling out from that, and what I'm hearing is just amazing. So I explore that in the word, right? And these title words, one after the other. So then there's touch and all that. Wow, it just keeps on going. It's never ending.
No, it's incredible. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I love, I think obviously this because I've said it, but my curiosity is not just like a curiosity for facts, but like I think experiences as well, and just like to see what happens. So hearing what you said, like asking people like what this word tastes like, that's so interesting to me. Like that is so interesting. Like to just like think like, oh yeah, like so many people are going to give these interesting answers, and like I'm so curious what they would all say, and like wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. Well, one thing I'm wondering is how many people, if you had to estimate, would you say that you've interacted with on this subject of bridging political divides? Right.
Yeah. So, I made myself a project, and it was going to be 326, just to create a number where I had to go to.
Yeah.
So I stopped counting at 326.
Okay.
326. So like recording and making a video to go with it.
Yeah.
Not of what people were saying, but some abstract video that went with it. And I put it on YouTube so people could just be out there as part of the project, right? Just to set myself a goal, right? But it's been multitude of times, and I don't. It doesn't really follow that format anymore. As well, I'll be at a party or something, and somebody's like, "Oh God, what are we going to talk about with that person?" I'll just say, "Hey, hey, how would you describe the political system of the United States?" And then that goes off. I've always got something to say, and we get straight into it, right? So it's just a multitude of expressions around that. Um, I've stopped counting. But I'll uh, I'll take things away, like on the taste of a word. Now, when I'm having a conversation, and I do have now a tendency to try to find people outside of my worldview, right?
Sure.
So in my case, if I see somebody with a MAGA hat, I'm like, hey, hold on, wait, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Or if I see people at a national park and they're maybe Mennonites or something like that, I want to go ask them political questions, because I know their answer is going to be super interesting and different. But the taste of what a word tastes like, I use when I get, and I'm sure this happened to all of us, when we get triggered by something. Somebody says something, and they're like, "Oh, that's not right," and that's the trigger. And then we just focus so much on that, and we're thinking, "Oh, what am I going to say when that person's finished talking? I'm going to get back to that, and I'm going to tell them what I think." So rather than getting triggered and to get back into listening, I wonder immediately what that trigger tastes like. And that brings it down. It's like, oh, shit pie, apple pie, whatever it is. It's and there's that visual imagery that I make of whatever that ingredient or whatever it look like, or the sour or whatever. That takes me away for just a brief second, and I'm back in, because I've disassociated my attachment to a response to that one item, to being back there for that person, to being back in that connection, because it's so rare that we can be in that space with someone. I don't want to miss it, because I don't want to argue, and that's the big thing. Like, the word argue in French means to have a discussion, right? And whereas here an argument is a sense of, like, metaphorically, of war. Somebody's got to win it or lose it. I don't like that. They don't have to be that way, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It is really interesting, like what you said about, like, seeking out people who have a different perspective, because that was one of my takeaways, I would say, also over the years, that it was like, again, the way I was raised was that, if someone thinks differently on this specific set of topics, it's like, well, then they're just wrong, right? And if that's what you think, then what incentive do you have to listen to what anyone else has to say, right? Because ultimately it's not going to better you. You're just like, but they're just wrong. So, like, why do I care at all what they think? When in reality, it's like, there are so many different ways to look at really everything. And the only way that you can truly come anywhere close to thinking you have the right perspective is, like, to hear all the other ones. And so for someone to be like, oh, I know for sure I'm not talking to that person, they just think this. It's like, well, first of all, you're assuming what they think. And second of all, like, well, now I just know you're wrong. Like, I know for a fact you're wrong, because you won't listen to anyone else, which means, like, you barely heard anything, And so I totally agree.
The wall.
Yeah. It's like, I love hearing from, obviously, just like anyone else, I love hearing from people who agree with me, but I also love hearing from people who disagree with me, because it expands my perspective. The way I explained it, like, a long time ago, I had a guest on where, have you seen the movie The Dark Knight, the Batman movie?
The Batman thing.
Yeah. There's like one scene where they basically, like, hack into everyone's phone, and it becomes almost like a kind of like a sonar thing for the whole, like, city, so that they can locate the bad guy or whatever. And I just was thinking, like, to me, I'm like, that's how I view, like, when I have a conversation with someone. Like, to me, it's almost like now I get to see the world through their eyes, and therefore I have a better lay of the land than someone who has never spoken to that person.
Dude,
you know what I'm saying?
I totally do. I mean, this is the way I visualized it, right?
Yeah.
So I visualized it like worldview echo chamber cave, right? And you get to visit and you go in.
Yeah.
And oh man, I love doing that. I love getting in that space to see what that looks like. It's like you don't have to travel far and wide
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's got this whole ecosystem of thought. And it's not just the facts or whatever is decorating the inside of it.
Mm.
It's how all that maneuvers and how it's been set up. I mean, it's extremely intimate when you get in there, if you get that space for that from that person and to be able to look through that. And of course,
you know,
while
what's
you're in, then
interesting
you
about
take some of that with you, right?
Yeah.
But,
No, but what's interesting about that is that you have to be able to go into it with actual genuine curiosity. Because if you're going into it with the intention to judge what they're going to tell you as right or wrong or good or bad, you've lost it. You're not able to actually get that perspective. But if you do go into it with genuine curiosity, then it's almost like you said, you're like getting invited into this private space that honestly most people never get to see because most people they don't care enough and they're not curious enough to know what that space or to get to know that space at all. And so you get invited in and you get to hear all these perspectives. And like I said, it's almost as if for me, the more people I talk to, it's like, well, I get a better lay of the land of, the world than anyone else, because now I've spoken to so many different people who shared their view and like their space and all of it. And so one of the things I think I'm curious of is like from your perspective, having spoken to so many people, and now obviously, the context was with, political questioning, but I'm just curious, like what some of your takeaways are from a perspective of humanity in general, right? Because like you said, but before you went into it, you were like, thinking like you were going to change people's mind or something like that, or
clash. There'd be, first of all, I thought there'd be arguments all the time. I mean, in the sense of conflict, it was not going to go down well. And when you write down these First Amendment, you got to get a permit and stuff to be in these areas, and they want to know if there's going to need to be police protection or security or anything like that. And I was kind of like thinking, oh, what is going to happen here, right?
Yeah.
But there's never been a conflict, right? I mean, the tone, there's been conflict, but it hasn't. It hasn't risen out of
like
control
escalation
or
into violence.
None of that. That was one big surprise. Also, that those word titles, that last word that comes out after the three questions, there's like a pattern where may they be left or right. There's although anyway, the word is hope. That people are hopeful of a better outcome in the future. That's what they expect. It might leave me with the word division or shit show or whatever, and then they'll come back to tell me, no, it's actually hope. And so I think that's cool. There's been a little bit less of hope recently because the word itself, and a word in the sense of Orwellian newspeak, is I found that it's a word that you shouldn't use because it's associated with Obama and with the left.
Interesting.
So
honestly, that's what I was thinking the first time as soon as you said it. As soon as you said the word hope, I was like, oh, that's what Obama ran on.
It's like it contaminated the word with all this luggage, the baggage with it, which is unfortunate. Like to disassociate that, there's words that are come close to it. People debate better. Say better. If you can't say things will get better, you say the word better or betterment. Those are coming up.
Yeah.
When you that was a surprise. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So
no, go for it.
The only reason I'm interrupting is because I feel like I have something to say about all these things you're saying. I want to hear more, but I also don't want to forget about these things. So the thing you said about expecting like conflict, and then when you have to fill out the thing and wondering like, oh yeah, am I going to need protection? Right. I was thinking how like I said, I've been driving for a really long time, and people would always ask me, like, did anything crazy happen? Like, you have any crazy stories? And I'm like, no, like literally none. Like nothing as bad has ever happened. Okay. Like nothing. But that was also a surprise to me, right? Like when I started driving for Uber and Lyft, people were like, what's that? You know what I mean? Like, no, like it was just a thing where you're like, what? It was new. And then when I
It
explained
was
it to
that
them,
long ago.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so when I would explain to them what it was, they're like, what? You're just
What?
gonna
Oh
let
yeah.
strangers get in your car?
Mm, mm,
And I mean, to this day, right? People ask me that question, like, "Oh, you have crazy stories, any crazy stuff that's happened?" And there's nothing. There's the occasional, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like little
drunkenness or
stuff, right?
whatever.
But not, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But nothing insane. And that was also one of my takeaways was, beyond
Mm,
the just the viewpoint of all people that I feel like is very similar. I also think that, again, being raised the way that I was, that it was like, oh, people in the world, people out there are, evil and they're gonna do bad things. And I also,
mm,
I'm saying this, that's how I was raised, but I also think that that's just how most people feel. Like when you talk, people go, "Oh, people suck. People are the
mm,
worst. You got to protect
mm.
yourself. Blah blah blah. You never know what can happen. This and that." And it's like that has not been like even a fraction of my experience. Like
Mhm.
it has been the exact opposite for me, that I realized that it's like, wow, everyone just seems kind of nice and cool and like just like decent. You know what I mean? Like it's and
Right, decent. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and like that's really like to me, and like I'm not saying that people don't do bad things, right? Of course they do, but I'm
Mm,
just saying like my interpretation. Here's what I found. Okay, if you've ever thought about writing a book, Peaceful Profits can help you go from idea to published author, and even position your book to become a bestseller. Go to howtobeaperson.co and click Peaceful Profits author resource to get more information now.
okay.
Because I've also had other jobs where I was like in customer service and things like that. And interestingly enough, I would say that also is what added to that the original perspective of all people suck. And I think the reason is because you're dealing with people when they are in the middle of a problem, right? They have like
Mm,
something going on that they need fixed and they're irritated. And like we all, like when something's wrong, like you get irritated, right? And you might be short with someone or rude. And on the flip side of that, like when you're doing Uber or Lyft and you're just driving someone, like 99 out of 100 times, the person is just like in a neutral emotional state, right? They're not like upset about something. There's not like a problem that needs to be fixed. They're just kind of going from one place to another.
mm,
And I think because of that, obviously someone could argue that shaded my experience with people. But what I'll say is that, well, so is these other experiences that you have, right? When you go, oh, people suck, like you're a customer service person, you go, oh, people suck, they're so rude. It's like, well, I mean, you're the state that you're being exposed to people in would lend itself to that. So it's not
The
surprising
environment.
that
The
that's what you
environment.
think of
Yeah.
people, right? And
Mm,
so for me, I think that the like the Uber thing is more of a neutral thing, right? So it's like I'm not necessarily
mm,
interacting. Like, let's say you're like you do weddings or something, right? You're like, people are awesome, right? They're all happy. And then you're like, okay, well, you're talking to them
yeah,
when they're
amazing.
happy and partying and stuff. I think to me, like the whole rideshare thing is like the most neutral ground to meet people on, because there really is no, like, there's nothing crazy going on. For the most part, you're meeting people in a neutral emotional state and you're just having conversations with them. And like that, I feel like to me, I'm really grateful for it, because I think it put me in a position to like actually feel like I could evaluate. And not that that's what I was doing when I was driving, but being able to look back and evaluate
Mhm.
and think, man, like most people are just decent, like they're
Right,
not
right.
this like they're not
I'm thinking
scary.
this the space is important though, right? It's
Yeah.
so it's like you're in a confessional almost.
Mm,
You're in you're in a space. You're not, and neither are you looking at each other eye to
true.
eye. So there's the nonverbals taken away.
But you are also in a very small space with a
Yeah,
stranger.
and it's quiet.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors in it, right? Of course.
Hmm.
But I do think that there's also a certain amount of trust, right? That like you
Mm.
have to give each other, because you're literally within choking distance, right? You're literally within striking distance of a stranger. And like it's
Mm.
constantly, you know what I mean? And so I agree. I think that there's things that like lend itself to like people being open, but also like you could
Oh.
feel threatened, right? Based on where
Mm.
you're at. So yeah, anyway, I was thinking about that when you mentioned the whole conflict thing. So you're saying in
Oh,
this
but
whole,
that brings like issues like vulnerability, right? And also it tailors what you say as well. You're going to be careful of what
Mm.
you say when you're in person,
Mm.
right? Versus online, right?
Yep.
You're not
Yep.
going to spew things out when the person's right next to you, and
Yep.
they can choke you, hit you, stop the car, throw you out, whatever,
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Give you a bad review, whatever it is. All those things is like social control.
Which is important,
Uh,
by the way.
yeah,
But this
it
is
is.
important because
We got those. Yeah.
like,
We have to have those.
here's the thing,
Yeah.
okay? Because sorry, I want you to make your point, but I think this is also
Okay.
important. Is that I think because
It's probably the same point.
I've struggled with this. Like when people say
Okay.
things online that they wouldn't say in person,
Yeah.
I've looked at it and go, well, so that's what they're actually thinking. That's who they really are. And you're like, but is that true? Like, which is reality? Like what you would say in person when there's no consequence, or I'm sorry, what you would say online when there's no consequence, or what you would say in person when there is. Like, which is actual reality? And I think being in person is actual reality, right? Like the way you act in person is who you are. Like, I don't believe that we have this like hidden version of ourselves that's just like, oh, well, no, I'm just this evil person, but I just behave this way because this is who I am in person. Like I
think that, okay, I would think the environment is what dictates that both are real.
Okay.
The expression is different depending on where you're at. And your response is going to be different. So when you're face to face, you have these social norms of communicating, and you get all the benefits of fulfillment of that connection that takes place.
Yeah.
When you're online, same person, right? Very different construct without any possible repercussion and all that stuff. So which one? You both are real in different circumstances.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of us spend more time online, and there's more conditioning for that aspect of the person. Let's counterbalance it, get more in the cab, on the podcast, in the conversation, talking to strangers to counterbalance that. And if our time online is all just, I don't know, visual diarrhea of stuff, well, we can easily counterbalance that with depth offline with people, right? I mean, our human experience, this is all new stuff in our human experience, all this online stuff.
True.
There's a need for connection, and that need is hopefully not going to be with our AI companion, but with the stranger or somebody that's close to us, somebody in real time. And I think both are real. Which one is more fulfilling is the question.
Yeah. I think what I'm curious, I think to me, the underlying question is like, which is a more accurate representation of the person?
No, I see what you like, the deep underlying aspects.
I mean, I'm not saying that I have the right answer. I'm curious. Like, do you think that?
No, that's my answer. I feel like everything is real, but dictated by the environment in which it happens.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's change the environment in which we act in a certain way. If it's vile online behavior, well, get off. Unfortunately, one's more comfortable than the other, right? Going online is within this space and comfort where you feel unthreatened and comfortable. It's all cozy, and there's no distractions. You got your AirPods in and whatever, and you're on your phone, and all the rest doesn't matter. Talking to somebody that involves not just curiosity, that's cool, but you got to be vulnerable. It's a bit painful as well, because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And also, we're in a time where a lot of people are starting to losing plainly their ability to communicate, to ask questions, and to listen to others. Yeah. The ability to talk is no problem.
It's the listening that's the hard part.
It's the listening that's hard. To be there and not just have a monologue with the other, to treat the other person pretty much as a screen.
That's so interesting.
To be the actor.
Yeah, I feel like because you can't change the internet, right? but I do believe that the intention of use for the internet needs to change. Like I think that connection is valuable, but I think that I'm sorry. What I mean is I think connecting through the internet can be valuable, but I think that it should be for the purpose of facilitating like in-person connection, right? And like
Yeah, we can do that. That's
real
totally
time.
possible.
I mean, that's what's happening right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
Like you and
Yeah.
I.
We're using technology for this. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Are we elevating ourselves thinking that this is good and everybody and scrolling on Instagram's bad? In a sense, we got to be careful of that as well. But my experience is when I'm doom scrolling down, I'm just going to see what's happening. And I stay on that and time passes by. That time is gone. I've not only have not gained any fulfillment and connection, but I've given parts of myself away as a product, right? I'm consuming apparently, but actually I'm the product, right? That's benefiting somebody else, that's grabbing all my information and my eye time to show me different things, and it's pulling me in one specific direction that is dividing the country, is dividing communities, that are dividing people, that are pulling them apart. They're dividing also families and the time that they spend with one another. All those things are happening. It's where to strike that balance. And so to me, all of those areas are real. But there's an element of conditioning, and we can create our own conditioning, right? More likely offline than online, right? We make choices when we go online. There's platforms that we choose. We're being conditioned. We're part of the conditioning because we're offering part of ourselves as part of the greater, the greater information system. We're part of a surveillance system as well that's checking us out. That should be objectionable, right?
Yeah.
But we do it willingly because it comes with an incredible show. Doing it offline seems mundane and kind of boring, and doesn't have all the bells and whistles and excitement that the online system does. So entering, like you do and like I do and like other of your listeners do, to enter in to the mind of others, into the echo chamber of others, into that point of view, to navigate that, to make yourself more vulnerable, have that sense of adventure is actually more tantalizing in a sense, because there's an element of risk that is happening. You're something that it can come back at you in a way that you didn't expect. It's much wider and also expands and fluid with others, and it's what we're made for from millennia, right? So I like that. I like the offline one. Although I could totally, I stayed up till 1:00 in the morning watching a series.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Oh, I totally get it. It's so funny. My wife and I, over the last like maybe few weeks or a month, we started playing card games. And we always like have played card games, but like we just kind of like, I would say the last few years, we never really did. And it's crazy how like you are essentially, right, like sitting in the same room, like let's say for 30 minutes, and you're both just on your phone scrolling, and sitting in the same room playing a card game. Like if someone wanted to be like, which of these is a more useful amount of, or, useful, better use of your time, right? Like you would just be like, neither, like whatever. You're just kind of playing a game or you're scrolling your phone, whatever. But the amount of like fulfillment and like enjoyment and like just, it was like next level playing a card game versus just sitting there scrolling on our phone. And we're sitting here like, what the hell have we been doing? Like we'll sit here and we're just scrolling on our phone next to each other when we could have been doing this the whole time, which I know this just sounds so stupid, right? Because we're just talking about playing a card game, but like, it's kind of nuts how we've gotten into this habit of just like, whenever there's any empty space, just like picking up our phone and just starting to scroll. And like, that has become like a hobby almost. Like it's become a point where it's like, well, this is just my hobby. This is, what do I do in my free time? I don't know, scroll threads, scroll reels, just kind of check my email and do that, whatever, right? You have free time. Like that's what you fill it with, instead of like these in-person things, which anyway, I'm just saying all this to say that.
No, I get it.
You know what? I'm being just intentional about that is good.
I feel like saying next time that happens that I'm addicted. to scrolling. I'm addicted to series. I'm addicted to this because it has a connotation, like a way of deconditioning ourselves. Is like putting it in that category. It's like because it is addictive.
Yeah, sure.
It has all these bells and whistles, and it's like a constant circus.
Yeah,
right. It's very entertaining. It's made to. It's a divertisement. It's to divert us from the non-consumable life where you guys are playing cards.
Yeah.
Stay online and consume. Right. And it's addictive as well. It not only has it the flashing lights, it's got the little beep when it needs it. It's got all this stuff, and it. But it is so limited. It's just auditory and visual, and it's missing all the rest. And we forgot our sense of smell, for example.
And taste.
Yes,
like you said about tasting the words, like, oh, that's so true. Like there's a whole like plethora of information that we get through our senses when we're having an in-person experience that like we're essentially setting aside when we're having a digital experience. And like we've been willing to make that trade for a very long time. And then that's what I'm saying. Like when we had that realization of like playing these card games, we're like, well, wait a second, we've been giving all of this up this whole time. What are we doing?
And you guys are probably laughing at a whole other decibel level and just a little giggle when you're online.
Exactly.
You're like, you're just going to really laugh. All those things are going to happen.
We have a lot to explore. I feel like we have even more to talk about, but I have to wrap up. So what I'm hoping is that maybe you can come on the show again and we can talk about some more things. I feel like there's a lot of questions that I still have that I haven't been able to ask, but I would love to talk to you again. I've really enjoyed our conversation so far.
Anytime, man. We have a lot more to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So for anyone who's listening who like wants to connect with you or experience your art or anything like that, how can they do so?
Well, I'm going to send them online.
Okay.
I'm going to say two things. So there's most like go online if you're curious to see what I'm doing. I put stuff on a website. It's called Triptych Dialogue.com. And it's a really weird word. Triptych is TRIP, like a trip. And tick is TYCH. And then dialogue, DIALOGUE.com. Check that out. There's different expressions of what we were talking about today through my lens, if you like. There's also things I put, like all those recordings and conversations online. I put them on YouTube with abstract videos going on there where you can just hear unedited what people were saying.
Nice.
And then there's that 1 year, we didn't talk about that, but I spent 1 year doing an art experiment on political polarization on Instagram. That was wild, drove me nuts. You can go see that.
We really have
Triptych Dialogue.
We definitely have to talk about that.
But I'm going to say, like, for people to know more about it, they should just go out and try to talk to a stranger.
Yeah.
That honestly, that experience right there is using the story of what we're doing right now and try it out. Put yourself in a vulnerable position a little bit and talk to somebody that's on a park bench at the grocery line or something like that. And why not ask them the question, something about whatever there's on their T-shirt or whatever, and say something like, well, how do you feel about the political system in the United States of America or something? Or how do you feel about consumerism in the United States?
Yeah.
Or something like this, right? Just plug in a word in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a conversation. And they'll often say, anyway, I'm going to stop because I'm just go on and on.
Okay.
Try that out.
I'm the same way. We can talk forever. David, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I definitely will include all of, the link in the show notes for people. And yeah, it's been a great talking with you, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Until next time.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.